Welcome to Global News on Signature TV. I am Barry Kumo Ado. In the headlines, Senate extends validity of 2024 budget to December 31st, 2025. FCT Minister Wike dismisses rigging claims, points to development projects. Trump says he does not want regime change in Iran. And Zelensky and Macron meet as Ukraine seeks support at Hague summit. Details shortly.
Every second, every minute, every day, news is breaking. Events occur and there are new developments. At Signature TV, we follow these stories objectively, bringing all sides without bias, explaining the complex issues, breaking down the numbers, and investigating the issues behind the news. Anywhere and everywhere, near or far, wherever the news is, we will be there. Signature TV. News in your pocket.
The Nigerian Senate has approved another extension for the implementation of the capital component of the 2024 national budget, shifting the deadline to December 31st, 2025. The decision was made during Tuesday's plenary following the swift presentation and passage of an amendment to the Appropriation Act, which went through all three readings in a single sitting. Leading the debate, Chairman of the Senate Committee on Appropriations, Solomon Adeola, said the extension was necessary to ensure completion of ongoing capital projects, many of which have been delayed due to revenue shortfalls.
The Appropriation Act of 2024 will come to an end by 30th of June 2025, this year. And due to some projects which are yet to be funded and implemented, we find it very important to come before these ALO chambers that this budget be extended by further 6 months, that is to end on 31st December 2025, to allow, among other things, the procurement process to be completed, money to be released for the implementation of the capital component of this budget.
I wholeheartedly associate myself with the submissions made by my chairman of the Appropriation Committee, adopt same, and further add that in line with the desire of the present government and in consonance with the Renewed Hope agenda to ensure that no project is abandoned in the course of implementation of the budget.
However, senators such as Abdullah Yahya and Abdul Ningi criticized the repeated extensions, describing them as signs of poor implementation capacity by ministers, departments, and agencies. They called for investigation and more transparency from the executive.
The National Assembly is not being taken into confidence by the executive arm of government on this very serious matter. This budget should have been implemented and everything done by December 31st, 2024. We extended it by another 6 months to the end of June this year.
I'm going to bring a motion sequel to the passage of the bill, which says the Committee on Appropriation and Finance should investigate the recurring dismal of non-implementation of the capital component and report back within 1 week or 2.
Government has grounded, that's what it means. Contractors who have done their jobs, committed their resources, cannot be paid. The benefits of the budget that we all took time to work on and passed has not gotten to the people. And guess what? We are talking of the capital component. The recurrent component, which is for the bureaucrats, it has gotten to them 100%.
Mr. President, I think that we must take this bull by the horn on this issue of appropriation. And I think that unless we take it very seriously up with the Ministry of Finance, this Parliament will become an embarrassment into itself. Mr. President, I am reluctantly supporting the extension of the 2024 capital component of the budget.
Deputy Senate President Barau Jibrin, who presided over the session, ruled in favor of the bill after the adoption of a report from the Committee on Supply. There's a second extension granted for the 2024 budget following an early shift from December 31st, 2024 to June 30, 2025 at the request of President Bola Tinubu.
Desire to make sure that we solve these problems. In any case, the Committee on Appropriations and Finance have the function already enshrined in our rules to do that. So what we are trying to do is to emphasize the need that they should do the needful and then report back to us.
In a related development, the Senate also passed the Nigeria Police Trust Fund Amendment Bill, extending the fund's lifespan from 6 to 12 years. The aim is to boost police training, equipment, and infrastructure. The amendment was passed without opposition, following its second and third readings after suspending Senate Rule 78(1).
To amend the Nigeria Police Trust Fund Act to increase the duration of the trust fund to, among other things, provide for continued training, provision of equipment and related facilities, as well as enhance the skills of personnel of the Nigeria Police.
Both bills now await concurrence by the House of Representatives before being transmitted to the President for assent. Nigerian Senate has directed the Nigeria Customs Service to raise its 2025 revenue target from the proposed 5 trillion naira to at least 10 trillion naira as part of efforts to boost national revenue. The directive was issued during the Senate Committee on Customs, Excise and Tariffs Budget Defense Session for 2024 and deliberations at the 2025 fiscal proposal. Committee Chairman Jibril Issa criticized the revenue projection by the Customs Service, describing it as abysmally low and not reflective of its service's capacity. He noted that with ongoing recruitment of over 3,000 additional personnel and existing infrastructure, Customs Service is well positioned to meet a more ambitious target. Senator Issa also called for increased vigilance at Nigeria's borders, urging Customs to intensify its interception of arms, ammunition, and illicit drugs through seaports, airports, and land entry points.
Having said that, we believe that your revenue target of 6-point-something trillion, I can't get the exact figure now, is abysmally low. You have to double your efforts. You must get us nothing less than 10 trillion by the end of this financial year. We don't expect you to get us anything less than 10 trillion by the end of this financial year. You are adequately equipped, you have the infrastructure, and you have the staff. Okay? The additional staff that you're talking about, over 3,000, will come in, and I'm sure you are almost on the drawing board of that.
Deputy Controller General of Customs, Finance and Technical Services, B.M. Jibo, presented the service's 2025 revenue projection of 6.584 trillion naira.
2025 budget proposal. The revenue target for the year 2025 is based on the medium-term revenue framework. The revenue target for NCS for 2025 financial year is set at 6.584 trillion, consisting of 3.835 trillion for Federation account, then 1.081 trillion for non-Federation account, and 1.650 trillion for import VAT.
That's why the Senate Committee maintained its stance, pushing for a more aggressive revenue strategy to align with the country's fiscal needs and development goals. The Nigerian Ports Authority, NPA, has projected a revenue of 1.279 trillion naira for the 2025 fiscal year, representing a 40% increase over its 865 billion naira target for 2024, which it has already surpassed. The revenue projection and budget proposal were presented separately to the Senate and House of Representatives Committees on Marine Transport by NPA Managing Director Dr. Abubakar Danso on Monday. Dr. Danso revealed that the agency remitted 400 billion naira to the Consolidated Revenue Fund in 2024, almost double the amount remitted in the previous year. He attributed the projected revenue growth for 2025 to modernization efforts, improved operational efficiency, and increased maritime activity.
In 2025, we are projecting or proposing a revenue of 1,279 billion. This is about 40% more than the 2024 actual of 894 billion. The details of the revenue sources are as written below. So on the cargo side, we are expecting we'll realize 413 billion. On the ship side, we are hoping to realize 544 billion. On the concession side, we are hoping to realize 249 billion. On admin revenue, we are hoping to realize 73 billion. So in total is 1,279,894,610,633,343. We predicated our revenue increase in the following: the Dangote refinery coming on stream, which required a lot of marine services from us, and then we have established a one-stop shop in MPA, which has so far been able to treat over 57 vessels per month.
Chairman of the Senate Committee Wasiu Eshilokun commended the NPA's performance, but urged the agency to further enhance infrastructure, drive revenue, and support national efforts to tackle unemployment and fiscal deficits.
As we look at the 2025 IGR budget proposal, we expect clear strategies on how NPA intends to enhance its revenue generation capacity, reduce leakages, and modernize port operations through digitalization, improve security, and infrastructural upgrade. The expectations are even higher considering the federal government drive to increase non-oil revenue and reduce dependence on borrowing. Let me reiterate that this committee will continue to play its oversight role effectively, not as an adversary, but as a partner in progress. We are committed to work with NPA and all relevant stakeholders to ensure that maritime sector contributes meaningfully to national development and economic growth.
Other lawmakers also applauded the NPA for consistently exceeding its annual revenue targets, but encouraged even greater performance to reduce the government's dependence on borrowing and close budget gaps. The member for Enugu East and Issues of Federal Constituency of Enugu State and House of Representatives, Professor Paul Namchi, has dumped the Labour Party and joined the All Progressives Congress APC. Namchi announced his defection on the floor of the House on Tuesday. In his letter of resignation read by the Speaker, Tajuddin Abbas, the Enugu lawmaker, cited what he refers to as internal leadership squabbles tearing the party apart as its reason for leaving the Labour Party. Professor Namchi said the crisis has continued to disrupt the party's structure and success made in the last general elections.
From Honorable Prof. Paul S. Namchi, his message is also on notice of defection from the Labour Party to the All Progressive Congress APC. His message reads as follows: history rarely remembers those who stood still in moments that demanded movement. With deep reflection, I tender my resignation from the Labour Party, a platform now plagued by internal paralysis and troubling laws of direction. When a political house becomes consumed by conflict and deaf to reason, staying becomes a betrayal of purpose. In contrast, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is confronting the nation's challenges with the audacity leadership requires, taking bold, if painful, steps that speak of a future reclaimed, not postponed. In fidelity to my conscience and my constituents, I align with a vision that seeks not applause but impact. Yours sincerely, signed, Honorable Prof. Paul Inamchi, member representing Enugu East, Esi Uzo Federal Constituency of Enugu State.
Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, has dismissed allegations of election rigging leveled against his associates, saying critics have no tangible achievements to campaign with. Wike made remarks on Tuesday at the commissioning of the right-hand service carriageway of the Inner Northern Expressway linking Ring Road 3 to the Outer Northern Expressway. He said his allies have been targeted because they can point to completed roads and infrastructure across FCT communities, unlike some opponents who cried foul after losing. The minister revealed that the road project initially awarded in 2014 for 7 billion naira was completed at a revised cost of 31 billion naira. He thanked President Bola Tinubu for his continued support and emphasized that road infrastructure is key to economic growth and investment attraction. Meanwhile, the Independent National Electoral Commission has scheduled the FCT Area Council elections for February 21, 2026. In response, political parties have begun selling nomination and expression of interest forms for chairmanship and councillorship positions, alongside setting dates for primaries. Amid a brewing crisis, the Social Democratic Party National Working Committee has suspended its national chairman, Shehu Gabam, and 2 other members of allegations of gross financial misconduct. Spokesperson of the party, Araba Rufus Ayenigba, disclosed this in a statement on Tuesday. Other members suspended are Nzenadi Clarkson, National Auditor, and Uche Chukwuma, National Youth Leader of the party. According to the party, the suspension of the trio takes effect immediately. This comes after protesters pulled down SDP's National Secretariat gate in Abuja. Tensions have erupted within the Social Democratic Party SDP ahead of the 2027 general elections. Protesters on Tuesday pulled down the main gate of the party's National Secretariat in Wuse Zone 2, Abuja. Protests began when members of the party's National Working Committee were holding a meeting at the headquarters. Sources say the unrest may be linked to alleged plans to impose former Kaduna State Governor Nasir El-Rufai as a key figure in the party's leadership. El-Rufai, who recently defected from the All Progressive Congress to the SDP, and declared in a Monday interview his intention to oppose President Bola Tinubu's re-election bid in 2027. The party has yet to release an official statement on the incident or on El-Rufai's reported role in the unfolding crisis. The People's Democratic Party (PDP) has conducted its primary elections across 6 area councils in the Federal Capital Territory. The exercise held on Monday, June 23rd, as part of preparations for the 2026 general elections. Correspondent Chimeze Nzedima covered the event.
It was a show of grassroots participation and gathering of party faithful and aspirants as the PDP held its delegate primaries across 6 area councils in the FCT: Buari, Kuje, Kwali, Abaji, Gwagwalada, and the Abuja Municipal Area Council. Following a closed-door briefing with election officials, Chairman of the Election Committee and PDP Chairman of Plateau State, Honorable Chris Hassan, addressed journalists at the Buari Town Hall. He emphasized that the exercise was not just about winners and losers, but about reaffirming the PDP's commitment to internal democracy and party unity.
Today's election is the election of our candidates to contest the chairmanship of all the area councils. Here we are in Buari. So far, I've been briefed fully by the electoral committee that is here at the moment. And the briefing is wonderful. In the thinking of the party, you know, our party motto stands on justice, fairness, equity. I can assure you that from the arrangement they are making, you see it will play itself greatly here. I can assure you the spirit of People's Democratic Party is going to be very, very fair. And you can see democracy playing itself here. I have no fear based on the arrangement. I want to assure you that and our conduct, our caliber of people that come out to this is the best so far. And we speak with the people on ground because power belongs to the people.
Voting proceeded across the 6 area councils under the supervision of party officials. Many stakeholders described the process as calm, credible, and devoid of violence. At the close of voting and collation, Honorable Hassan personally announced the results for each council area, highlighting the transparency and orderly nature of the process.
We thank God that the elections went in rancor-free. And here are the results of the election. For Kuje Area Council, we had 2 contestants, Jigo D. Michael and Lami Zakaria. And Jigo had to withdraw. He withdrew his candidacy and he has written a letter to that effect, which we submit to the National Secretariat. And then Lami was the only person that contested in Kuje Area Council. And by the electoral process and powers conferred on us, after the application, 30 affirmed to his candidacy. So the 30 delegates voted in affirmation. And by virtue of electoral law, he has been declared unopposed and ready to contest the 2026 local government election in FCT.
In his closing remark, Honorable Chris Hassan described the entire process as free, fair, and a true reflection of PDP ideals. He stated that nobody was cheated and that the primaries were conducted with integrity, noting that the party is now better prepared to face the 2026 general elections as one united front.
I want to gladly announce to you that elections were rancor-free and went smoothly in respect of the ideals of our party. It is our desired prayer that we work towards the success of this election come next year, 2026. So welcome, and I appreciate all your.
Party stakeholders at the venue commended the process, calling it a model for grassroots democracy within the PDP, with delegate elections concluded in the FCT. The party says it is focused on strengthening internal structures ahead of 2026. In Abuja, I am Chimize Zadima for Signature TV.
Still to come, Taraba lawmakers move to replace Deputy Governor amid prolonged illness. NDLEA Abia Command calls for family support, mental health services, and grassroots campaigns to combat drug abuse. Stay with us.
Every second, every minute, every day, news is breaking, events occur, and there are new developments. At Signature TV, we follow these stories objectively, bringing all sides without bias, explaining the complex issues, breaking down the numbers, and investigating the issues behind the news. Anywhere and everywhere, near or far, wherever the news is, we will be there. Signature TV. News in your pocket.
Ekiti State Governor Biodun Oyebanji has presented compensation checks totaling 1.45 billion naira to 195 residents of Ija, Awo, and Araromi Ekiti, whose lands were acquired for the Ekiti Knowledge Zone EKZ project. Speaking at the presentation ceremony held at the Governor's office in Ado Ekiti, Oyebanji described the EKZ as a strategic economic initiative designed to foster an innovation-driven ecosystem and support knowledge-based enterprises in the state. He said the project is expected to create over 14,000 jobs, particularly for young people, and serve as a catalyst for sustainable development. The governor emphasized that the EKZ is complemented by key infrastructure projects, including the Ekiti Agro-Allied International Cargo Airport and the Ekiti Ring Road, which would ensure the zone's long-term viability. To guarantee transparency and fairness in the resettlement process, the state government engaged Green Engagement Limited to implement the Resettlement Action Plan for those affected. Oyebanji also expressed gratitude to President Bola Tinubu's administration for creating an enabling environment for the project and to the African Development Bank for its financial backing and technical support. Strong indications have emerged that Taraba State Deputy Governor Aminu Alkali may be replaced soon, following a prolonged illness that has kept him out of office for over 9 months. Sources within Taraba State House of Assembly and senior government circles say lawmakers are rallying around the current Deputy Speaker, Haman Adama, as Alkali's possible replacement. But the Assembly is yet to initiate formal impeachment or succession proceedings. A senior official disclosed that plans are underway to trigger the constitutional process for Alkali's removal. However, the state government has dismissed the claims. Governor Abu Kefas, Special Advisor on Media and Digital Communication Emmanuel Bello, described the reports as baseless and unfounded. The Deputy Governor's Office has also remained silent, issuing no official statement on his health status or the reported succession plan. The Abia State Command of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, NDLEA, has called for greater investment in family life programs, youth empowerment, mental health support, and grassroots drug education as long-term strategies to combat drug abuse. Acting State Commander Chibu Odermenam made the appeal during a press briefing at the command's office in Aba. The event was part of activities marking the 2025 United Nations International Day Against Drug Abuse and Illicit Trafficking, observed every June 26. Odermenam emphasized the importance of prevention in tackling drug abuse and dismantling organized crime networks, identified key hotspots for drug trafficking within the state, and reaffirmed the command's commitment to eradicating the menace. He also called for collective efforts in the fight against illicit drugs.
According to the United Nations, the survey carried out by UNODC in 2018, which shows that 14.4 million, 14.4%.
That's 218, right?
Yeah, that 14.4%, equivalent to 14.3 million people between the ages of 16 and 64 have used psychoactive substances, excluding alcohol and cigarettes. To Abia State, 11.3% prevalence, which translates to 216,000 have used drug other than alcohol and tobacco for the past 1 year. So in Southeast Zone, according to the survey, Abia ranges top under Imo, Anambra.
That's third, right?
Yes.
The first is what?
The first is Anambra. Yeah, not the first is Imo. The second is Anambra.
Some young drug users undergoing rehabilitation at the NDLEA Center in Aba told Signature TV that drug use offers no benefit, urging their peers to shun illicit substances.
Since I was there, I have been abusing cannabis, tramadol, and alcohol. And since I've been here, my body has changed, and the urge is no more, and I'm okay.
Drug hasn't been a good thing in my body because drug has almost damaged my body. Actually, if not for the grace of God, I would have been maybe a very hospitalized person or someone who is dead by now because drug damage can make me machete under how many days. So to my other young youths out there, I'll tell them that they should calm down with anything drugs because drugs won't help them because they think that drugs make them creative or give them a good life of living. But the truth of the matter is that drugs doesn't do anything. It's just a momentary joy that makes you maybe feel good or
A major highlight of the event was the display of various illicit drugs recently seized by the command. In attendance were senior NDLEA officials including Acting Deputy Commander of Operations Bruto Patrick, Deputy Commander of Drug Demand Reduction Anu Ninta Morris, Assistant State Commander for Finance and Asset Investigation Bekwele Chuku, Public Relations Officer Ikechukwu Akune, and select members of the press. The Nigeria Labour Congress NLC said some changes in the country's labour laws are affecting the tempo of trade unionism in the country. The Enugu State Chairman of NLC, Fabian Wibo, who featured on Signature Morning, a Signature TV morning show, stated that the new laws have impacted the ability of trade unions to organize, bargain collectively, and embark on strike. Wimbo stated that the present labor law requires that certain stringent conditions must be met before embarking on strike, and that such strikes must be called off once the employer calls for negotiation or dialogue. He said that those accusing labor leaders of failing in their duty of championing the cause of workers are living in the past.
The truth is that the presence of NLC, just to even come together and say we are going to declare strike tomorrow, it puts serious fever on the system. It makes the system to adjust and say what is going on. So if labor was not there at all, I'm telling you, what would have been going on in this country would have been hell for every person on earth. So although people think in the way you are thinking, or you are trying to place before us, but the truth is that labor, the presence of labor, have worked hard to change a lot of things to ensure that we have stability in this country.
The NLC chairman, however, stated that the labor leaders are still doing their best under the prevailing circumstances to improve the welfare of Nigerian workers, claiming that Nigerians would have been buying fuel at about 3,000 naira now if not for the intervention of labor. Wimbo confirmed that the federal government has given out 90 compressed natural gas CNG buses to the Nigeria Labour Congress and expressed the hope that the deployment of the buses and the ones procured by the Enugu State government will go a long way to alleviate the plight of workers and other Nigerians.
Yes, I would say that it has yielded some tangible outcomes, because if NLC, the organization NLC was not there, Nigerians would have, at this present moment, would have been in a whole lot of trouble. Because if you look at the shape the government took when they came in and the layouts of their plans, you find out that if there are no checks on them, it would have been a lot of trouble for all of us. For instance, when the government came in and said, fuel subsidy is gone, that's the beginning of our trouble in the country today. And since then, NLC the labor have been following them, trying to check all the designs, issues that came with that removal of oil subsidy. And that's why today we are still feeling a little better. Not that we're better, a little. So I would say that the efforts NLC as an organization have made yielded some serious positive results. Because, recently, fuel price is beginning to rise again. That we are buying fuel less than 1,000 naira was because of the pressure coming from the labor. So if we had waited or relaxed, or there's nothing like a labor, by now, fuel wouldn't be selling less than 3,000 in Nigeria. So if you look at that aspect alone, you could say, and our economy, like a mono economy, once the oil sector comes, the whole aspect of our economy catches cold.
Chief of Defence Staff General Christopher Musa has expressed deep concern over the absence of a national census, warning that the lack of accurate population data is weakening Nigeria's security and damaging its international credibility. General Musa made the remarks during an advocacy visit by the chairman of the Senate Committee on Army, Senator Abdulaziz Yaradua, alongside members of a civil society group, Yaga Africa. He emphasized that tackling foundational issues like conducting a national census and securing Nigeria's porous borders are crucial for enhancing national security and global respect. Defense Chief also revealed that in its more than 30 years of service, it has only voted once, highlighting persistent voter apathy as a threat to democratic progress. He advocated for the use of modern technology and ICT tools to streamline census and voter registration processes, reduce costs, and improve accuracy. General Musa stressed that higher civic participation is essential for deepening democracy, promoting good governance, enhancing security, and curbing crime. On military founding, they reaffirmed its support for the Armed Forces Trust Fund, calling for a well-defined implementation framework to ensure the fund effectively strengthens operational capabilities. Inspector General of Police Kayode Egbetokun says 53 suspects have been arrested in connection with the recent deadly attacks in Benue and Plateau states, which left dozens dead and many others injured or displaced. Speaking at a press briefing in Abuja on Tuesday, Egbetokun described the June 13 massacre in Yelwata Community, Benue State, as a coordinated act of terror. He confirmed that 26 suspects were arrested in connection with the Yelwata attack, 22 linked to the Plateau violence, and 5 more for a separate recent incident in Benue. Inspector General disclosed that 47 people were killed and 27 others injured in the Yelwata incident. Security forces also recovered 2 general-purpose machine guns and 8 AK-47 rifles used in the attack. Assured Nigerians have continued efforts to bring all perpetrators to justice and restore peace in the affected communities. A devastating windstorm has destroyed some schools and staff quarters in the Funtua district of Katsina State. Severe windstorm caused significant damage to school infrastructure and staff quarters across multiple education institutions in the affected area. In a statement, the Katsina Commissioner for Basic and Secondary Education, Zainab Musawa, expressed the government's heartfelt sympathy to the schools, staff, and families affected by the mishap. Musawa said the government is assessing the extent of the damage and will provide updates on measures to address the situation. She assured of the ministry's support during a challenging time while urging the school management to ensure that educational activities continue to avoid disrupting normal academic activities. And next is business news.
The Nigerian Stock Exchange closed higher on Tuesday, June 24, 2025, with increased trading activity across the board. A total of 756,498,607 shares were traded in 22,206 deals, amounting to a market turnover of 23.29 billion naira. Compared to Monday's session, trading volume rose by 16%, while turnover increased by 9%. The market capitalization now stands at 75.6 trillion naira, reflecting improved investor confidence. Out of the 130 listed equities that participated in the Tuesday's trading, 61 recorded price gains, while 23 declined. Better Glass PLC led the gainers, chart closing at 333 naira 95 kobo per share after a 10% increase. UPDC also gained 10%, closing at 3 naira 30 kobo per share. Okumo Oil Palm PLC advanced by 10% to end the day at 748 naira per share, while Dangote Sugar rose by 10%, finishing at 44 naira per share. On the loser side, Dar Communications PLC posted the highest decline, shedding 7.81% to close at 59 kobo per share. Prestige Assurance PLC followed with a 5.56% loss, ending at 1 naira 2 kobo per share. Indices report. The Nigerian Stock Exchange All Share Index continued its upward trend, rising by 1,211.17 points to close at 119,790.82 on Tuesday. This reflects a 1.02% increase from the previous session. The index has now posted a 1-week gain of 4.25%, a 4-week gain of 9.72%, and a year-to-date return of 16.38%, highlighting sustained bullish momentum in the markets. Stock market report. I am Chinizi Zedima.
Still to come, Iranians gather in Tehran to recognize their armed forces. France Macron, UK Starmer, Germany's Merz meet ahead of NATO summit. Stay with us.
Every second, every minute, every day, news is breaking. Events occur and there are new developments. At Signature TV, we follow these stories objectively, bringing all sides without bias, explaining the complex issues, breaking down the numbers, and investigating the issues behind the news. Anywhere and everywhere, near or far, wherever the news is, we will be there. Signature TV. News in your pocket.
Iranians gathered in Tehran's Engelab Square on Tuesday in a show of support for their armed forces as Israel and Iran work out a ceasefire announced by the United States.
The battle will continue, God willing, until the complete destruction of the Zionist regime.
The united voice of the Iranian nation is this: they started the war, and ending it is up to us. We are not at all satisfied with this ceasefire, and we are fully prepared to sacrifice our lives if Ayatollah Sayyid Ali Khamenei gives the order for the destruction of Israel, no less.
No. In my opinion, now that it has started, we must see it through to the end. There's no benefit in stopping now. Just like what happened in Gaza and Lebanon, Israel, America, and Trump himself cannot be trusted at all.
The ones you killed, the Iranian elites, Iran will avenge them. One day, they will be avenged. You will be caught off guard. We will catch you off guard, be sure of that.
A shaky ceasefire began to take hold between Israel and Iran on Tuesday under pressure from US President Donald Trump, raising hopes for an end to the biggest ever military confrontation between the Middle East armed foes. He later said Israel called off further attacks at his command to preserve a deal to end a 12-day air war with Iran. Both Iran and Israel sent signals the conflict was over, at least for now. Israel's military said all regions of the country had moved to full activity level without restrictions from 8 p.m. local time. Its airport authority said Ben Gurion Airport has reopened. Americans who have been residents in Israel voiced both relief for themselves and anxiety for family and friends staying behind that nation as on Saturday hung over the country hours after a fragile ceasefire deal with Iran was announced. One group of passengers aboard an evacuation flight arranged by the state of Florida had well wishes as they arrived at the airport in Tampa, grateful that days of dashing inside bomb shelters had ended.
So we were just trying to find any way to get out, really. There really wasn't many options. Yeah, I mean, it was pretty indescribable. I mean, we left Sunday morning under sirens and then took a bus all the way to the Jordanian border, spent hours at the border there trying to cross over.
So we've been running in bomb shelters over 25 times, sleepless nights for the past week and a half. Yeah, it's been really intense.
Yeah, it was pretty scary. You know, we were all outside and, you know, we kind of heard the sirens and actually saw the missiles coming in over our heads. So yeah, it was crazy for sure.
This was a long journey, but we're all safe at home now.
US President Donald Trump said on Tuesday he does not want to see regime change in Iran, which he said would lead to chaos. Trump sharply rebuked Israel on Tuesday for its military response following a ceasefire deal and accused both Israel and Iran of violating the agreement just hours after he announced it. Trump had announced a ceasefire earlier on Tuesday with a post on Truth Social. Later in the day, Trump told reporters Israel launched its strikes almost immediately after the agreement was reached. Tensions between Israel and Iran to escalate and is willing to work with the international community to maintain peace and stability in the Middle East, a Foreign Ministry spokesperson said on Tuesday. Spokesperson Guo Jiakun told a regular press conference that China is calling on all parties concerned to return to diplomacy as soon as possible.
China closely follows the development of the situation in the Middle East and does not wish to see tensions escalating in rounds. We hope that a ceasefire can be achieved as soon as possible. Facts have proved that military measures cannot bring peace. Dialogue and negotiation are the right way to solve problems. China calls on the parties concerned to return to the right track of political settlement at an early date. China is willing to work with the international community to make efforts to maintain peace and stability in the Middle East.
Israel had said on Tuesday a ceasefire was in effect after it achieved all the goals of a bombing campaign against Iran that it launched on June 13. Iran had confirmed that it will halt retaliation if Israel's bombing stopped. President Donald Trump said he expects to meet Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky for talks during the NATO summit.
You think you'll meet with Zelensky when you're there?
Yeah, probably. I'll see him. Yeah.
What would you say to him?
Say, how you doing? He's in a tough situation. Should have never been there. Well, I'll have to take a look at it, but, you know, I'd like to see a deal with Russia. As you know, Vladimir called me up. He said, can I help you with Iran? I said, no, I don't need help with Iran. I need help with you. And I hope we're going to be getting a deal done with Russia. It's a shame. 6,000 soldiers died last week.
Zelensky warned European NATO members on Tuesday that they risk being attacked by Russia if it was not defeated in Ukraine. Kremlin accused NATO of being on a path of rampant militarization and portraying Russia as a fiend of hell in order to justify its big increase in defense spending. Russia cited its neighbor's desire to join the US-led Transatlantic Defense Pact as one of the reasons why it invaded Ukraine in 2022. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky and France's Emmanuel Macron held a bilateral meeting on Tuesday ahead of a NATO summit at The Hague, where Ukraine will be hoping for renewed support from the alliance. Zelensky has said he wants to discuss substantial purchases of weaponry, including Patriot missile defense systems, as well as sanctions and other ways to put pressure on Putin. Leaders of France, Germany and the United Kingdom met on Tuesday ahead of a summit of NATO leaders focused on increasing defense spending and tackling the war in Ukraine. The gathering is intended to signal to Russian President Vladimir Putin that NATO is united, despite US President Donald Trump's previous criticism of the alliance, and determined to expand and upgrade its defenses to deter any attack from Moscow. The summit and its final statement will be short and focused on heeding Trump's call to spend 5% of GDP on defense, a significant jump from the current 2% goal. It is to be achieved both by spending more on military items and by including broader security-related spending in the new target. Protesters opposing an increase in NATO defense spending targets of 5% marched through Ljubljana on Tuesday as leaders gathered in The Hague to discuss the matter. Some protesters said the increase will be at the expense of public services and social security. Others opposed what they saw as a caving in to US demands.
We have gathered here today to express our strong opposition to what is being decided in The Hague today, when the Western elites, in relation to our economic and political ruling class, the collaborationists, are making decisions that will affect all of us.
It's not surprising, but yes, at the end of the day, this means for us that the remnants of social security that we still have, from kindergartens and schools to the collapsing health system, now the pension reform, all of this is going and will continue to be eaten away at, supposedly, because we would rather give it to militarization.
New York City residents voting in the city's Democratic primary election on Tuesday at a poll site at Banch College in Manhattan expressed enthusiasm for the mayoral race.
Crime and housing is my two biggest things. The rents are too high. We should have re-rented during COVID, but we were stupid, you know, and that's about it. I voted for Lander because he's a known administrator and he's known to get stuff done.
He has my vote because he sees the people of New York as people. Andrew Cuomo and Eric Adams do not. They are funded by huge super PACs that don't give a shit if we live or die. And Zohran Mamdani actually has tangible plans. He can speak coherently on them. He cares about the people of New York. He is a person who lives in New York. He actually lives in the city. He, you know, wants to take care of. And, you know, I think he believes in human rights. And I think fundamentally that's what so many races around the country are about right now.
Giuliani time, Mayor Giuliani time was very good kind of situation in Manhattan and New York, everywhere. But the last couple times we saw is New York City was very good, bad condition. We think maybe this time new mayor will do something for us. This is our hope. Let's see what's happened.
Let me just say that if it doesn't quite turn out the way many of us expect as far as the Democratic primary, I wonder what kind of door that opens for Mayor Adams.
Do you think Adams still has a chance?
Well, I can't help but wonder if he would have a better chance against someone other than Andrew Cuomo. You know, that's an interesting little variable.
And that's the news this hour. I am Barry Kumo Ado. Thank you very much for watching. Up next is Signature Morning. Stay with us.